part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello. Another week, another episode. This is the Ball Card Show. I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
This is the Sports Podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I said that very enthusiastic.
Take 4.
Take 4, bro. Sometimes you record. Sometimes you get halfway through the episode and you're like, oh, man, Gary's not in this. Like, here's what I realized. Your track was not in here.
Okay.
We do not have the infrastructure in place to break the internet right now of my monologue for 30 minutes. Because if that happened...
What if that happened?
Huh? Well, I'm just saying there wouldn't be a need for you.
Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I didn't want to have to say it. But it is possible. As always, we're brought to you by the Press Play Podcast Network. If you haven't looked them up, look them up. Great content, a lot of sports-related stuff, Cleveland people. You're covered there. And then great entertainment stuff as well. Movies, books, all kinds of fun stuff. Press Play
All I know
Podcast
is
Network.
that if we were in an NFL booth broadcasting games, I would be the play-by-play guy. You'd be the color commentary.
Cool, bro.
So what I'm saying is you can live without color commentary. You can't live without play-by-play.
Is that true?
I think so.
Is that true, though?
I'm pretty sure because if nobody's giving you the play-by-play,
Ask Jason
tough
Witten
to know
that.
what's going on.
Did you see that?
Jason Witten's not too good in the booth.
Well, he's play-by-play.
Yeah, but he's not too good.
Oh, you could get... So, 2 Jason Wittens, would that...
That would be brutal. That would be
Why?
That would be almost as bad as 2 Chris
What's it
Collinsworths.
missing? Someone to carry the team on their back, which is why I'm here. My back is tired. My legs are tired. Not from working on garage doors all day,
Your
but from
fingers
putting
tired
the
is
team on my back.
hurting too, yeah.
I definitely hurt myself there. But here we are. We're ready to kick it off. First things first, college football. This weekend, kicking off. Well, it's been kicked off already, but the important game is Notre Dame and The Ohio State University. Can't
You don't
wait.
get to have any input on that game, mister. I'm not going to watch it.
I didn't say I wasn't going to watch it.
How are you going to watch it at the Lumineers concert at Wrigley Field there, hipster guy?
Well, here's my plan. I'm going to have one AirPod in, and whenever so show me family, I'm going to be like, hey!
No.
And then I'll look down at my phone and check the
Stop.
score. And something I believe, OH! Dun, dun, which I hate when people do OH in places it doesn't belong.
Like Wrigley Field during a Lumineers concert?
Well, I wouldn't say that it doesn't belong during the game. That's like they're going to be pulling a lot more than the Lumineers are when it comes to like ratings, money, and attention. But yeah, I'm going to be at that concert. I thought it'd be a noon kickoff. It's always a noon kickoff. It's like noon kickoff, San Diego State University, and this year Notre Dame.
There's going to be a lot of hipsters at that show.
A lot of wide brim hats.
Oh,
A lot of cropped like khaki pants rolled up with wingtips. And I'm going to be there with my cankles and Jordans and basketball shorts. Let's go.
represent.
Yeah. I might even wear a button down with basketball shorts.
Oh.
Like Adam Sandler's style. Adam Sandler gets it. Have you ever seen the paparazzi pictures? He's still living in the Jinko era. 4 sizes too big. And Adam Sandler can hoop.
Yeah, he can play a little.
A little. You said it like you'd cross him up.
No, not at
Do
all.
you think you could hold your own against Adam Sandler on the court?
No, I don't think I could hold my own on a basketball court right now against
With your shoulder not
basically
hurting.
anybody.
With your shoulder not hurting.
No, I can't. My hamstring or groin would pull in the first 5 minutes.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. All right, let's jump into some...
Ex-athlete.
Yeah, let's jump
Emphasis
into
on the X.
I was hoping you put up more of a fight than that, but you
No,
didn't.
no,
Now I
I'm
just
realistic.
feel like a bully. All right, Mickey Mantle sold. We talked about it last
Yep.
week and the week before. Wanted to see where it would land. You predicted after the buyer's premium it would be around $12 million, and I'll be darned if that's not exactly
What
where
was it, 12.2, 12.4? Something like that?
Something
Yeah.
like that. I don't like it when you're right, but you were.
You're miserable all the time, aren't
Now,
you?
had I said it would be $10 million, it would be 10.
Okay.
But that is not the case. Mickey Mantle's card, SGC 9.5, which the fact that existed in the wild at any point in that condition, I mean, when was it graded? Do we know that? That was
Just a few months ago.
Okay, so this was in raw state.
Yeah, I told the story of this a
I
few
don't
weeks
pay
ago.
attention to you.
Okay.
I'm already thinking about my next thing. That's what a narcissist does.
Okay.
Earlier, I thought, have you ever said it, listeners at home, have you ever said a word? This is a great sentence structure. You ever say a word that doesn't sound right? That's what happened to me.
Yeah, that doesn't happen to me very often, but I will sometimes say a word too many times in a row, and it loses all meaning. It just becomes sounds.
Like when you say, like I said, or you say, well, and I said this the other day, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It just loses all meaning.
Or like when you're like, hey, Tua can't throw.
No, that'll always have meaning because it is an empirical truth.
Apparently it's not.
Well, we'll see.
All right. Mickey Mantle sells for $12 million. Now, on the podcast that I listen to quite a bit, and I think you still listen to it, Sports Card Nonsense,
Occasionally.
there was a little bit of a debate between Mike Gio and Sports Boy about this very topic. One of them was Jesse was asking, will this Mantle, how much of an impact on the hobby will this have? You know, we had the 2020 pricing, the bonanza, everything going crazy. We have a little bit of market correction. And then this year we have this card sell for $12 million. And they began to debate whether the Mickey Mantle selling a card would have a huge impact. Mike Gio said no. He said that Zion Williamson having a really good first couple of weeks in the season will have a stronger impact on the hobby this year than the Mickey Mantle selling for $12 million. I think that's a really interesting take.
I think he is somewhat right and also somewhat wrong. From a short-term perspective, I think he's right. There's a lot of money that people have tied up in Zion. And if he plays well, people are going to try to cash out, which means that his stuff will go up relatively quickly, but then supply will catch up to demand and it'll fall again. Now, it may not, if he's playing well, it may not fall back to where it is right now. But if you think you're going to try to move your Zion stuff, I would do it pretty quick. If he comes out the first 5 or 6 games and averages 25 and 10, dump it.
Yeah.
Dump it. Especially lower end stuff. If you got some PSA 10 Donruss stuff that you've been picking up for $30-$40, dump it.
What if you spent like $100+ on each of them?
Well, I think that you might get to 80 or 85. You might double what the current value is.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get back on the lower end stuff way up there.
It would take so much for that
Yeah.
to get. And plus it's
Shiny
it's
stuff
not millions, but it feels like there are millions of PSA 10 base Zion stuff out there.
Shiny stuff will get a little bit better. Paper stuff will maybe double from where it is now. But then I think it'll settle back down. So it might go from 40 to 80 and then it'll settle to 60.
I mean, like it or not, Zion's base rookie stuff could be, it's not statistically exactly the same, but you could really draw a lot of parallels to the 89 Griffey stuff. Like, it's just so saturated.
Well,
it was kind of the player as the market was climbing. And somehow people would still allow. So John Morant goes off and has a killer first couple weeks. His market's not going to change that much. Zion does it, and it will go ham. It's just
he was a hype beast, and if he comes, and the thing about Zion though, and this is something that's really important to note, I'm not certain that the kid can stay healthy for any period of time. That being said, when he has been on the court, he's been a monster.
Yeah.
He has not in any way, shape, or form been anything other than a monster when he's on the court. He just hasn't been on the court a lot.
I'm going to make a statement and let me finish this sentence. Zion Williamson's, it's not style of play, attitude when he plays, maybe, intensity, really reminds me of Dennis Rodman. Like, the attempts to get to the ball, the way he goes up. Now, very different players, very different strategies, but he attempts to play with that same type of explosiveness. And it's rare to have somebody not get hurt really bad that plays that way. like Rodman is not the norm for playing that type of aggressive play through the game.
I think that I see what you're saying. I think the difference is that Rodman played with that intensity knowing that he was going to score 6 points a game.
Yeah.
If Zion was only touching the ball enough to score 6 points a game, he would not play with that level of intensity.
If he's only touching the ball, but he finds himself in the play though. Like he gets to the ball
on the offensive side.
Under the glass, I think so too. Watch him. His first game in. We've seen a lot of it. He's got to stay healthy. He can't be heavy and playing his style of play. That's for sure. And that's why they put that contingency in his contract.
Be a fatty and play that way.
But anyway, I thought it was interesting the parallels between if Mickey Mantle's cards have an impact versus Zion. So we know what Zion can do. This Mickey Mantle card selling for $12 million has had articles, Wall Street Journal. You name it, every article. It's in the local news, national news. I think it's going to have a lot of people who have been hearing a little bit more about it. Once again, calling up Grandpa and asking if he still has that box of cards in the attic or in the basement. In some ways, it's going to make collections available. So if you're somebody that likes to scoop up collections, now's not a bad time to post that article and say, hey, I'm buying. Who knows what you have?
I think you just got to be ready to really deflate people, because that's my concern with this Mickey Mantle sale. That every Tom, Dick, and Harry that is 50 or 55 years old that collected cards when they were a kid is going to pull out all their 1984, 1985 Fleer and Donruss and Top stuff and their early 90s stuff and think that they have a gold mine on their hands. Yeah. And they just don't. And telling them that and trying to explain that to them is a really difficult row to hoe, because they think you're trying to take advantage of them because this card just sold for $12 million. What do you mean my 30-year Don Mattingly isn't worth $500? I saw something on eBay where if the dot's missing after ink, that it's an error and it'll sell for $2,000. No, sir, that's not real. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So those people, if somebody has a collection, just don't bother calling you to split it with you.
No, I'm not saying don't bother calling me. I just think that my concern with the Mickey Mantle thing is that it's going to on the front end try to bring a lot of people who used to be in the hobby back into the hobby, but they've been out of it for so long that they have no concept of what anything is worth, and they're going to think that their 10,000 card collection from the mid 80s to early 90s is worth $3,000 or $4,000, and realistically it's probably worth 100 or 150.
Yeah.
So getting somebody to understand that they're overvaluing something by 20x is a hard conversation to have.
Yeah. I think you and I love the opportunity to take a look at it first. But yeah, I think there'll be some of that for sure. The same thing happened with vinyl records, when they got really big over the last 10, 15 years, had a resurgence. And then I was deep into that.
Right.
I've now whittled down my collection to like my favorite 1,000 vinyl records. My goal is to get that down to like 500. But I would buy a lot of collections, and everybody thought, "Oh, this is good. You never seen this is the box set of Captain and Tennille." So this is a Genesis record. You never seen this before, but
I can't dance.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, you can sing anytime you want, but when I bust out Genesis, you cut me off and just
there's
go
none
on.
of that. I'm color commentary.
No,
you're play by play. I'm color commentary. You're play by play.
Only thing about me is the way I walk.
Stay in your lane.
I can't dance.
I will unplug your microphone.
See, it's annoying.
Look at
isn't
me.
It?
I'm the captain.
It's annoying, isn't it?
No, I'm not annoyed. I'm just offended that you think all of a sudden you've been over here like playing tight end, thinking you're the quarterback.
Okay.
Anyway, Justin Herbert's 1 of 1 black right?
Finite. Yep.
Sold was
just
pulled
yesterday.
Yesterday, the 31st. Yeah. That's a big card.
Yeah, the Mac Jones from this year went for $100,000, so the Herbie's got to be $250.
Now, is that his rookie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 2020,
$250,000.
It's got to be $250. If Mac went for $100, it's got to be $250.
That's a big card.
Yeah, it's a huge card.
It still is tough for me with the ultra modern to see these prices, knowing that the guy can play. He's not established himself as a great, and you can buy a house with this card.
Yeah, I would say that the people. I actually had this conversation with somebody the other day. There's a small group of humans in this hobby who buy most of those huge cards. Money moves around between that small group of a few hundred people, and you just hope that you're lucky enough to hit one of those so that they can give you some of their money. People are buying the upside. I mean, Justin Herbert, through his first 2 years in the league, statistically is better than 99% of people who have ever played the position. There is nothing about his progression as a player or his personality or the way he approaches things that makes you think that that's going to change anytime soon. The one thing about football, unlike baseball, unlike basketball, is once you kind of establish who you are, unless you've got the wrong, lack of work ethic or things like that, things don't usually change too terribly much. Like, you know what you're going to get. I know I've got a pretty good idea what we're going to get from Justin Herbert this year. We're going to get 30 to 35 touchdowns at least. We're going to get 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns. We're going to get 4,000 plus yards. I know what we're going to get from Joe Burrow. I know what we're going to get from Aaron Rodgers for the most part. I know what we're going to get from Tom Brady. Like, you know what you're going to get from these guys.
You don't know what you're going to get from Tua.
I've got a pretty good idea.
I want you to verbalize it on this podcast right now. Statistically, how many touchdowns, how many interceptions?
I think Tua probably, if he starts...
Is he the starter the whole season?
Well, I don't necessarily think he will be, but for the sake of your argument, let's say he starts for
I'm
the
not
whole
arguing anything. I'm just asking questions.
for the sake of this discussion, we'll say he starts the whole season.
Yeah.
I think he probably has 3,200 to 3,500 yards. I think he probably has 23 to 25 touchdowns and probably 10 to 12 picks. He's going to be a middle-of-the-road quarterback.
So you think he has less touchdowns than Mitch Trubisky?
Yes. He has less. He has Trubisky's skill set with the players that are around him in Pittsburgh will enable him to have a better statistical season than Tua. And Trubisky has a better arm than Tua. And he runs better than Tua.
There's a lot of things he does
And he's
better.
got a much better running back than Tua.
For those of you that edit audio, please capture that frame. Frame is video, but you know what I mean. I'd love to save that for the end of the season. Product releases. Really just one we're talking about. One that doesn't get a lot of attention, but Luminance Football is out. The way I described it was, in my hands, it feels like a low-end product, but it has really cool photos like Stadium Club Baseball.
Yeah, it's a matte finished product. It doesn't have borders. It's a borderless card, so it always looks kind of cool, kind of like Stadium Club. You got full bleed photography, always action shots. I've always liked Luminance as a product just because it's a fun rip, and it's not a crazy expensive rip. You can get hobby boxes for $250.
Was it 5 autos in a box?
3 autos, 1 mem. You're going to get 5 parallels and 12 rookies. There's 40 cards in a box.
$250-ish?
Yeah, $250-ish is what you're going to pay for it. And it's college uniforms. So,
which, listen to that, college unis. That actually is a deal.
Yeah, the rookies are to be in college uniforms. But if you want to rip new product and chase some of the new rookies at a price point that isn't going to make your brain explode, it's not a terrible route to go. Prestige came out this last week as well. Again, college uniforms. I have always kind of liked the look of Prestige, but it just doesn't hold
I don't like the foil font. Just
any
not a fan.
value.
Yeah.
It just doesn't end up holding any value unless you get something super short printed.
Yeah. Before we move on, so we're going to talk about some NFL, just a few hot takes. But before we jump into that, you picked up a really nice lot this week.
I did. I had a nice little mail day today. Some Davis Mills, a few Justin Herbert rookies, a Acuna rookie from Topps Update, not bat down, just regular one. A really nice black and white mini diamonds, Alexander Ramirez. It's probably going to go directly to grading. Some Trey Lance. I got a nice Pete Alonso auto. You know how I feel about Petey, so that'll get sold real fast. Got a Bo Bichette pink refractor PSA 10 Topps Chrome rookie, and a little Josh Allen Panini Elite white jersey variation rookie PSA 9. So about $250 worth of cards, and I think I'm in them for about $100.
Where'd you say you picked them up?
Just on Facebook.
Nice.
Yeah. Was not a bad way
How
to
do you
go.
do that? You seem to get a lot of lots at a good price.
I'm not afraid to make people offers, and I also will put out that I'm buying, and I try to be as specific as I can about what I'm buying, and I tell people exactly what I'm paying for it. And I've said this in the past, if you know what you're paying for something and you tell people that, there will be people out there who just want cash quickly. I bought a whole bunch of 2020 Chronicles. Last week I bought a whole bunch of Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts, who I'm high on this year. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have himself a year. Mm-hmm. The Eagles actually have had the most money wagered that they will have the most wins in the NFL this year.
That's interesting.
Well, their schedule's soft, and they're building that team.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts, I don't think, has an incompletion in the preseason. If he does, it's like one. But I picked all those. I probably picked up 40 or 45 of those for $1 a piece, and it was a mix of paper and chrome. And one of them was a Jalen Hurts maroon die cut, not field level, but premier level.
Yeah.
So I just tell people, this is what I'm paying. If you don't want to sell it for that, just keep scrolling. I don't care. No big deal. And people will reach out and say, hey, this is what I have. What are you paying for it? And I tell them, cool.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, it ain't rocket science. But that's how I get good deals. I just tell people what I'm paying. And if I see a card I like, I'm not afraid to make an offer
And
on
you
it.
stay in the habit of consistently looking.
Oh, always.
So I'm somebody that's like feast or famine as I collect. I'm either doing 10 breaks this week and buying a collection.
Or you don't do anything for
Or I
a
take the
month.
week off.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. And then I'll be like, no, I just need to organize for now. And
Yeah.
I'll take like a month to organize stuff. Separate and all that fun stuff. All right, let's jump into some NFL. The Jimmy G situation is very interesting to me in San Fran. As those of you who are even remotely literate in football news have heard, Jimmy G just structured a contract with the Niners, and it's leaving me with more questions than answers about how they're feeling about the quarterback situation there. What are you thinking on this?
As soon as I saw what happened, the first thought that I had was they just gave themselves an 80% chance that they're drafting a quarterback next year.
Wow.
That was the first thought that I had. Because Trey Lance, who has all the talent in the world, and I think if he's given a real chance to develop, he can be a very good player.
Yeah.
He's got a cannon for an arm. His accuracy needs a little bit of work, but I think that was that's all footwork. And he can run. The Niners made the decision, hey, we are moving on from Jimmy G, and we are going to go with Trey Lance. Kind of like the Packers did 15 years ago when it was time to move on from Brett Favre, and it's Aaron Rodgers' turn. Cool. What would have happened, do you think, if 4 days before the end of training camp, the Packers had said, hey, Brett, we kind of want you to stay now if you'll take a pay cut? Like, what would have happened? Everybody says Jimmy G's trash. Well, guess what? Jimmy G has a winning percentage over 700.
Yeah. That matters.
In the locker room, it definitely matters.
The critiques a lot of times, like, he didn't throw that much, he didn't do this, but I think the results should carry themselves. So I feel like Jimmy G has always been like hobby adjacent. Like he's always like in a discussion. He's always a bargain buy. He's always somebody. He's always being talked about for somebody that's like on the fringes of being a starter / bench / new contract, raking in money.
Yeah,
but like, why hasn't Jimmy G landed somewhere where he's been a fit?
Well, I mean, San Francisco, he's been really good for. He took him to a Super Bowl. Like, he's taken him to the playoffs.
But then he's had how many pit stops after that on the way back to San Fran?
No, he's only ever been in New England and San Fran. He was drafted to New England, and then they traded him to San Francisco, and he started there for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the problem that San Francisco has now is Trey Lance is going to struggle. People got to remember, he has started 2 total games in 3 years. His big year that put him on the map was in 2019, folks. 2020, he played 1 game because his conference didn't play. They set up an exhibition game against somebody so he could have some tape. And then he started 1 game last year, and he showed a rookie like he would be, a supremely talented rookie. Made a lot of mistakes. They won the game, but it wasn't because of him.
Yeah.
And he's going to struggle. And
Yeah,
what happens?
If you're buying in big on Trey Lance right now, just head to the casino and put it on 26 black.
Yeah, I think that and his stuff has been flying up. Like his stuff has tripled almost in value.
But we just
in the
haven't
last month.
seen. What have we seen that dictates that?
There's been a lot of good talk coming out of camp, but and that roster is loaded. Like, and that's the problem that you've got. That's a loaded roster with Super Bowl aspirations. If Trey Lance comes out the first month of the season and throws 12 picks and 8 touchdowns and they're 2-2, you don't think there's going to be a lot of talk in that building about, hey, we need to go back to Jimmy G. He may
there's a reason they spent that money.
Yeah,
he may not
give us the upside, but he isn't going to lose any games for us. We can win 12 with him. He can win 10 more. Well, if that happens, you've just destroyed Trey Lance.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah.
And you're going to draft a quarterback again next year.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to bring – you're going to – what? We talked about this with Baker and Deshaun before Baker got traded to Carolina. Even the Browns were smart enough to understand, like, we can't keep him here and try to start him.
Well, and the Buckeyes would do this. Urban was known for this, having the quarterbacks wondering who the heck was going to start every week.
Yeah.
It created a lot of issues in the locker room.
Yeah.
And it's going to still do that with adults, even though they're potentially more mature and able to process this stuff. The difference between Ohio State and playing for the Niners is they will drop you so fast if you're not performing.
Yeah.
And then the house that you bought on your contract is a problem.
And that's I think that's the problem that they've got now. So they bench if that happens, they bench Trey Lance, they bring Jimmy G in, they end up going, 12-5, and they're a wild card, and they win a playoff game. Well, now what do? You going to re-sign Jimmy G? He took you to the playoffs after a 2-2 start and wasn't here for the whole offseason. You really going to give him a big contract?
Well, and that's part of the conversation, too, is people say that he's kind of aloof in training camp. He may not have great chemistry with the team. He comes across, kind of douchey. I don't know how else to say that.
I don't think douchey is the right word, but I think that he's perceived that way. And I think that as a quarterback, the one thing that you can't be if you want to be the face of a franchise is you can't be more concerned with your real life than you are with football. And I think that Jimmy G likes football, but I don't think Jimmy G loves football. I think Jimmy G loves his life.
I think Jimmy G loves Jimmy G.
Yeah, probably. I think Jimmy G likes to be at his house. I know there's been lots of comments and over the years where, like, George Kittle can't get a hold of him the whole offseason.
Yeah.
And won't return a call. Won't return a text. Like, Jimmy G's, hey, when I'm off, I'm off. I'm not thinking about football.
I always return my texts.
Shh. 3 days later.
Well, I got back to you. If it was important, you would have called. All right, moving right along. Lamar Jackson situation. They're trying to figure this contract out. He's wanting that Deshaun Watson money, at least guaranteed, big numbers. But then you have other contracts coming through. You got the Russell Wilson one with 165 guaranteed, basically structured on top of the 2-year deal. He's 5 years, 7 years, whatever Russell's is like basically $300 million before it's all said and done. And then, interestingly enough, Lamar Jackson has been kind of flirting with the Dolphins on Twitter.
Well, I think so.
Did you ever think that would be a thing? Like, this has happened so many times now that players are actually giving hints on Twitter about what they're interested in.
Well, I think that there's a couple really interesting things with the Lamar Jackson situation. The first one is this, and I didn't realize this till the other day. Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent. Lamar and his mom represent Lamar. So they're doing all the negotiations. They're doing all that stuff. There's no agent involved. So that's interesting. Another thing that's a really interesting dynamic, and I actually heard Rich Eisen talking about this. Lamar is a guy who is beloved in that community. He does everything right. He doesn't get in any trouble. He is a Boy Scout. He is a model citizen. He loves the game. He literally does everything right. And he's not getting rewarded. And then you've got a guy like Deshaun Watson who, even before all this other stuff came out last year, was like, yeah, guys, I'm not playing for you. You want to keep me on your active roster? That's cool. I'll show up at the building so I don't get fined, but I won't take a snap in practice. I'm never taking another snap for you again. Forced his way out and got paid. Got paid bank. And I don't know that there's any argument to be made that Lamar Jackson has been a more successful quarterback than Deshaun Watson. Lamar has an MVP. Lamar's been to the playoffs 3 out of his 4 years as a starter. Deshaun Watson's been to the playoffs once. Deshaun Watson's never been top 5 MVP vote. Deshaun Watson just went through a year and a half of absolute hell because of his own actions of not being a particularly morally upstanding human.
Yeah.
And then Lamar's over here like, wait a minute, what do you mean you don't want to pay me? I mean, he's looking at a situation right now where he's basically guaranteed from the Ravens about a minimum of $113 to $114 million over the next 3 years. This is his 5th year. They picked up the option, and then they can franchise tag him twice. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want that, and I don't blame him. I think if he's talking to the Ravens, he's saying, listen, your boy over there, Deshaun, got $230 million guaranteed. I want $231 for 5 years. I don't think that's.
Stephen Ross will give him partial ownership as a Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one concern that the Ravens probably have is the type of player that Lamar is. Does he last for 5 years?
That's a great observation.
I think that's the concern that they have. And they might be going to him and saying, hey, we'll give you 3 years at $46 million.
Yeah, I think it's a 3 or 4
$47 million.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's getting 5 fully guaranteed just because of the style of football that he plays.
Couldn't that be better for him? If he has a 3 to 4 year deal and then he still has another chance at one of those big contracts.
It could be.
If he's not feeling super great in Baltimore.
Yeah, if he's not feeling the love.
South Beach, I mean,
they traded his number 1 receiver. They didn't bring another one in.
But put him on the Dolphins right now and tell me how fast that team is.
If you put Lamar Jackson on the Dolphins, they are going to fight real hard with the Bills.
Yeah.
For that division.
Yeah.
Because if you think about what they could do with speed option and jet option with Tyreek Hill coming across and Lamar Jackson just reading the backside defensive end. And if you want to get real spicy with it, you make it a 2-level read. You read the backside D end, and then you read the linebacker with a little skinny post coming behind it.
Oh, he wanted to say football plays.
And then, I mean, that's going to be terrifying.
Oh, a guy there named Jalen Waddle ain't too slow either.
No, but Jalen Waddle, listen, we didn't talk about Jalen Waddle.
I'm nervous.
He's not going to be very good this year, guys. Statistically. Statistically, he won't be good.
He's still in a boot, I think.
Is he?
Yeah. I didn't check today, but
even if he's healthy, he's statistically not going to be great. And here's something to really keep in mind. The situation down there, Jalen Waddle is going to be in the slot where he spent most of the time last year. But that offensive system doesn't throw the ball to the slot all that much. Tyreek Hill, they're going to move everywhere. He'll play all 3 places. He'll play the X, he'll play the Z, he'll play the Y. They'll move him all over the place. So wherever they can get a matchup. Jalen Waddle, they're not going to do that with. Jalen Waddle's going to be slot, and that's it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the route running skills of a Hunter Renfrow. He's just speed. And when you're in the slot and you're just speed, you really only have 3 routes. You have speed out.
But won't that complement Tyreek perfectly?
Well, maybe, but the issue is that offense isn't set up to throw to that guy. The offense is set up for that guy to open things up for everybody else.
That's true.
So, anyhow.
Well, we'll see what happens. Maybe we make the Super Bowl, maybe we don't. Baker Mayfield.
He's going to have a monster year if McCaffrey stays healthy. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, people are excited about him. I don't know why they acted like there was really a shootout going on with Wonder Boy.
There wasn't. There never was.
But he was misquoted saying that he was going to F up the Browns. Somebody basically threw the statement out to him, and he said, yeah, that's going to happen. But you just happen to think that's true.
Oh, I think it is. I think that they just traded for Laviska Shenault. So now they have a physical receiver. You got DJ Moore, who might be the most underrated receiver in the NFL. He's had 1,000 yards every year in the league, and he's never had a quarterback. Him and Terry McLaurin were probably the 2 most underrated receivers in the NFL. You just traded for Laviska Shenault, so you've got a guy who can be that Deebo Samuel type receiver who can play inside, outside, and carry the ball some. He's a big physical dude. If McCaffrey stays healthy, if they are smart with the way they utilize him and get Chuba Hubbard 10 touches a game so that McCaffrey's just not on the field constantly. Robbie Anderson on one side, DJ Moore on the other side, Laviska Shenault in the slot. Terrence Marshall Jr. has looked really good in camp. That offense can be really, really good. It would not shock me in the least to see Baker go 4,000, 33, 34.
Wow.
62, 63% completion percentage and be comeback player of the year.
Wow.
Would not surprise me in the least. All hinges on McCaffrey staying healthy. If McCaffrey gets hurt, whole different ballgame.
I agree with that. Baker's still cheap, guys. Baker's still cheap in the hobby.
He's moving up a little bit, especially his higher end stuff, but it's nowhere near. He's a guy who, if he has the year I think he's going to have, you could 2 to 2.5 times your money.
That might be a huge play, honestly.
Yeah.
And now's the time. Put out, this week, if you're going to buy, tell them you're looking for lots.
Yep.
And you're paying 70 to 80% of comps, whatever your number is, and then be ready to pay it. Because if you can scoop that up, I agree. And I think 3 or 4 weeks in, you can recoup a lot of your money and then ride out the cards you like if you have some more SP stuff you want to hang on to.
Absolutely.
All right, just about to wrap it up. I had MLB on here. I'm going to leave it. We're going to do the NBA before we close, though.
Okay.
Big news in Cleveland.
Huge trade today. Out of left
Donovan
field.
Mitchell to the Cavs for basically the farm.
Nobody saw it coming. The Cavs gave up Colin Sexton, who was hurt all year last year, but before that happened, was considered one of the probably 8 or 10 up-and-coming scorers in the league. His career path looked very similar to Jason Tatum. So we'll see what happens there. But they gave up Colin Sexton. They gave up their stretch 4 in Lauri Markkanen, which means that I'm really interested to see, because to me, them moving Lauri Markkanen tells me that they are committed to playing Jared Allen and Evan Mobley all the time, Twin Towers, which nobody's done in the NBA forever. And Evan Mobley's got enough of an outside shot. He's not going to shoot threes, but he's got enough of an outside shot from 15 feet that it can space well. It lets Darius Garland still be Darius Garland. You've got a team now with 3 All-Stars.
That offense is spread out now.
Yeah.
It gets a lot trickier with your defensive schemes because you have the trade complements the style of offense that they have really well.
Yep. And they get decent depth.
He's a great person for all the young talent there.
Yep.
Got some years under his belt. He seems to be very well respected.
He's still really young. People forget how young he is. I think he's 26.
Yep. It's interesting. I mean, I've always enjoyed cheering for the Cavs. There hasn't been a whole lot to watch.
In addition to that, they gave up 3 first-round picks.
They gave up a lot.
And swap rights on 2. So for the next 5 years, they gave up the odd years, first-round picks, and then the even years, the Jazz have swap rights with them. So if the Cleveland has a better, draft pick, the Jazz will just go, hey, we want that. We'll trade with you.
Yeah. So that means they think in the front office that they can make a push now.
That roster, the way that it looks as it sits right now, is kind of scary. If Okoro can take the next step and really be a starter, and be that 3-and-D wing, you get Jared Allen and Evan Mobley both healthy, and then you got Darius Garland pulling the strings and Mitchell just popping threes and attacking the bucket and kicking out. Like that's kind of a scary starting 5.
Yeah.
And they're all young.
It'll be fun to watch that.
Yeah.
It'll be good to have a reason.
As a Cavs fan, it'll be real fun. Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, that's all I have today.
Okay.
You got anything else you need to talk about?
I mean, no, not that I need to talk about.
I'm good. I'm tired.
We do probably want to let people know this is the first episode of September. We will be with you guys through the rest of September, but then we will probably be taking about a month and a half off.
Yeah.
We've got a vacation scheduled right at the end of September, for then a couple weeks into October, and then probably get through Thanksgiving and then get into season 3.
Yep.
So
sounds fantastic.
Enjoy the next few weeks, and then we'll have a little pause. If you're new to listening, that's a nice time for you to go back and start at episode 1.
Guys, we got 1 million episodes.
Work back through. I don't know about 1 million, but we got to be getting close to 50.
Yeah. As always, we're brought to you by Busch Light.
Unpaid, but we drank it.
The light beer for the light man.
Oh, that's not true because neither one of us fit that description.
This beer is for
those who like water in a can. Not as bad as Coors Light.
Busch. Reach out to us, Busch. We'd love to take your money. This has been the Ball Card Show with the Esports Podcast.
For the Esports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.